Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain podcast. I am here with my friend, Mônica Lia Setti. Hi, Monica. Welcome.
Hi, Sean. Hi, listeners.
We're thrilled to have you.
Yeah.
And so Monica and I met. We have been at 2 Nicole Sachs Cure for Chronic Pain retreats together, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So 2 Cure for Chronic Pain retreats and one ATNS conference. So we have hung out a bunch of times.
Yes.
And why don't we just start with you telling everybody a little bit about who you are and introducing yourself.
Sure. You said it great. I'm Mônica Lia Setti. I am a neuroplastic symptom recovery coach, and I'm a mom of 2 kiddos, a dog and a cat, and I live in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And I enjoy being outside, nature, hiking, gardening, cooking. Just the kind of the average human stuff.
Love it. And before I ever met you, I'm
Mhm.
sure I had heard your story on Nicole Sachs's podcast because I know you were on there a while ago now.
Yeah, that
Um,
was like, it was like September ish of 2020.
oh,
So,
wow. Long
yeah.
time ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
That
Wow.
was
Wow.
when I
Wow.
had just found this work. I was
Cool.
very baby to it at that point.
Sure. All right.
Mhm.
Well, let's dive in there because we will certainly get to, you are a coach. This is your profession. You will have a bunch of advice to share with us. And let's start with your own journey and your own
Yeah.
story, wherever you want to take us. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. Well, I know we kinda talked about it. I really don't know where to start. I think
Yeah.
it's so hard when, like, there is a beginning of recognizing that all of the things that I had felt for my entire life, uh, weren't due to any extreme, unable to be detected, like, disease that I might have had or something deep inside of me that was really wrong. Like, there's the beginning of that story, and then there's the beginning of my life, which is actually when my symptoms started too. And so, yeah, I really find that question a little hard to answer succinctly.
Totally. And A, same.
Yeah.
B, I'm sure other people listening, same. Like I was like a very colicky baby
Mm,
and I've just like had a sensitive body and felt emotions in my body from the beginning. So I mean, let's start there. Since we're
yeah.
talking about it, why don't you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was born a little early, not like a preemie status, but enough early that some of my health was compromised.
Mm.
I needed a full resuscitation at
Oh,
birth.
wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, and then had a lot of respiratory issues, and particularly when I was sleeping, kind of like an infant sleep apnea.
Mhm.
And, that's what I had always heard throughout my childhood,
Mhm.
was that's what they had called it. So I spent, nearly 2 weeks in the, PICU in, an incubator,
Wow.
and so this was back in the late '70s, and thank goodness we were in the Bay Area, and my dad had just finished up graduate school at Stanford, so we were near, like, some of the best medicine you can possibly receive in our country. So there's part of me that feels really fortunate and thinks, what it yeah, the what ifs, but just feel
Sure.
so
Yeah.
grateful that we were where we were, and I was able to receive really good care for an infant.
Mhm.
But now looking back and understanding what I know about the brain and the nervous system and learned states of fight or flight and attachment theory,
Yeah.
and no fault of anybody. Like, I'm not here to
Mhm.
bash my mom at all or my dad in any way. They only knew what they knew at the time. Um, but just looking back at personality traits in childhood, really helps highlight just how profound of an imprint that made on me as a human.
So
Uh,
just to clarify, you're saying you
yeah.
were, like, basically taken away from your family and
Yeah.
put in, like, a medical setting incubator
Yeah.
for a long time. Wow, wow.
Yeah. And obviously, like, it saved my life.
Sure, right? Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
when I now knowing what I know, it just makes so much sense. And I think that
Mhm.
that was a big piece that I was missing throughout my life, is that I felt like I didn't make sense. And I
Yeah.
felt like I was the only one who was kind of different in this way or in any way. Yeah, as an infant, a lot of, reaction and reactivity to, perfumes and dyes, like, I had to have unscented things, I had a lot of ear infections, I was always had, like, respiratory stuff in childhood. I had, yeah, just a lot of childhood illnesses that seemed to impact me more than, like, my siblings. And this is yeah, so we moved around a lot.
Mm.
My dad was an independent contractor in wastewater and water treatment, and so he did a lot of independent contracts, throughout the world, primarily in developing countries. So, moving a lot then also created this sort of medium stress of kind of always living out of a box. Uh,
Wow, and are you saying you were, like, moving internationally a lot? Is that
yeah, we
I
moved
did
to
not know that. Wow.
yeah, I
Where yeah,
yeah.
where did you live?
Oh, yeah. So from the time I was like 6 months old until about 5, we lived in Lima, Peru.
Wow.
So Spanish was my first language, and I am so
Wow.
incredibly ashamed. I'm actually blushing right now. You guys won't be able to see, but I'm blushing through like I don't speak Spanish anymore. And so
Mm.
that's, there's a part of me that's like, "Oh no." But to that point, just as a little side story, when we moved back to the States and I was in kindergarten, I came home from school the first day of my first day of school, and I said, "Nobody speaks Spanish." I said this in
Mhm.
English, in really terrible English,
Mhm.
and my parents said, "Well, yeah, like, we're in the States and, not a lot of people are gonna speak Spanish." And I said, "Oh, I'm not going to because I don't wanna be different than anybody else." So even that in itself, like, I had that desire to fit in it was so deep, and
Yeah.
so, yeah, yeah,
What a story. Wow.
um, and then we were in Southern California for a little bit, and then my dad got another contract in Amman, Jordan, and I actually spent the
Okay.
majority of my, childhood in Amman.
Sure.
We spent 1 year in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, sort of in the middle of that, come home for summers. Yeah, and then we moved back to the States at the end of my 4th grade year. So I've been back in the
Got it.
States since then. But yeah, a lot of moving, and every
Yeah.
year that we moved, like, we would finish up the school year and then come back to the States for the summer, and then when we came back, we would be in a different house, like, it was same school, so thank goodness that was sort of, a concrete place to land, but even in that, all of my classmates were expats or, families were in the military or
Mhm.
just a
Mhm.
lot of, a very moving culture, and so
Mhm.
you would go back and, maybe there'd be several kids that were the same from the year before, but there would be a whole lot of new kids. So it's like always this,
Wow.
"Oh, now I have to figure out who my best friend is again."
Oh, yeah, man. Wow. Yeah, so much change.
It was a lot. It was yeah, it was quite a bit.
Well, okay, well, I'm thinking, like, in terms of tracking, like,
Oh, yeah,
symptoms and your
symptoms.
story, like, then what? As you were growing up, then what?
Um, so I think during elementary and middle school, particularly, I'm a great masker. And so, it through these like waves of discomfort of having to be the new kid or, hey, my best friend left last year. So who am I going to play with next year kind of thing. There was, yeah, always this underlying feeling of like I need to perform really well and I need to be like the good kid in the family and not make mistakes, which actually I think trying so hard to not ruffle feathers or to not to be sort of this shining star put so much pressure on me that then I would make mistakes, and then my parents would not be so pleased with some of my
Yeah.
choices. So there was a lot of messaging about taking responsibility for the things that you've messed up in whatever you've done. And so there was a lot of pressure to meet that. And I wanted to, because hey, it's my family and I want to be accepted and loved by them. And I do recognize that they love and accept me. But at the time it was so hard to filter that.
Mhm.
I mentioned my dad was an engineer. He went his whole life being a undiagnosed autistic, and
Oh, wow.
and
Wow.
so now in hindsight at the time, it was like why it was really hard to understand why he couldn't connect
Mhm.
with me, sort of on a level that I needed as a kid, but now as an adult, like oh he actually did a pretty good job for all of the barriers that he had in life. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so anyway, a lot of masking, and
Wow.
then when I hit high school, that's when, uh, it started really creeping in with the symptoms, more
Mhm.
traditional
Mhm.
TMS, neuroplastic symptoms. I started having a lot of trouble digesting certain foods, it seemed like. It seemed like
Mhm.
every time I ate dairy, I felt terrible. Yeah, so I kind of struggled with the food thing, but not really making the full connection. It was just like, "Oh, my stomach always feels terrible, and I'm always needing
Yeah.
to use the bathroom."
Yeah.
A lot of IBS symptoms that even I didn't wanna bring up with my parents because, in high school, I was also had chronic, bronchitis, chronic strep throat. So I was just always sick. There was always,
Yeah.
something just I guess, air quotes here, wrong,
Mhm.
with me, what seemed like on a medical level, but never anything so extreme that it was, you know, enough to be like, "Oh, we need to take you to the emergency room,"
Yeah.
or, that kind of response. And then,
Yeah. Well, let me just say
uh,
that my TMS has always basically been in that same kind of, category where it's like,
yeah.
it's bad, but it's not so and I know some people really do have severe TMS and they are in the hospital. Like, I know some of
Mhm.
Dr. Sarno's patients who he worked with were, like, bed-bound, wheelchairs. Um, I've always been just like what you're describing. Like, no need to go to the hospital, no need for the ER, but, like, this kid's not healthy. Like,
Yeah.
1000%.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was actually looking at photos not too long ago, and I saw this photo of me with my older sister, and, like, my face was so puffy from inflammation, like,
Mhm.
you could see the stress on my skin, like, it was just
Yeah.
when I look at that, I'm like, she was suffering so much."
Yeah,
Um
yeah,
yeah, and silently suffering. I mean, I think that,
yep,
there was a couple of really close either friends or family members, at the time that I confided in, but by and large, if you just had met me and kind of knew me casually, you'd be like, "Oh, her life is great. Everything is going so well.
right.
She's outgoing and friendly and kinda spunky and,
All of which you still are to this
oh,
day.
thanks." But today it feels authentic.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then it just felt like this like what I had to do in order to receive acceptance. Like
yeah,
I couldn't uphold boundaries because when I did, like it or when I tried to, severed friendships and, created uncomfortable situations at jobs and, just it trickled everywhere.
yeah.
And
Well
yeah.
Well, I'm thinking let's go, as we're, talking about your story, let's get to, like, because I now I don't even remember
Mm.
when things were kind of, like, at their worst, like, what was the symptom or these symptoms that, like, really took you down,
Yeah,
you know?
so oh gosh. So the IBS stuff, was I don't know, over 2 decades worth of, like, what
Okay,
is happening here. Um,
yeah,
and then I spent a decade, gluten-free and dairy-free, thinking that was
yeah.
part of it. And then I fell
Literally same,
Mhm.
literally.
Um, fell
Yeah,
down the rabbit hole of SIBO testing,
yeah.
positive for that, this idea of leaky gut.
Same. Okay, I just want listeners to know that both Monica and me tested positive for SIBO, and the real problem was neuroplastic.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, and so during this, like, 20-year-long situation, there was also these waves of muscular skeletal pain of like, "Oh, I've got a shoulder my shoulder hurts. I did
Mhm,
something to it. I,
right.
blew out my back," or "I have this weird knee pain." And all of those correlate to times in my life where I was putting a tremendous amount of stress on myself or feeling really inadequate about where I was in life, that I wasn't performing well. "Oh, I didn't get that job," or, whatever it was. And so, and now when I look back, I recognize that. I recently found, I'm not gonna pull it out, but I recently did find at one point I'd made, like, a list of grievances I had about myself.
Oh, wow.
And it was, like, the recurring back stuff and the shoulder, knee pain, the IBS and digestion. Oh gosh, there was waves of times where I had headaches, which I didn't even remember until somebody said to me recently, "I always think of you when I get a headache because you used to carry around like a peppermint oil thing and offer it to everybody."
Oh, that's so cute. I love that.
But I totally forgot about
Right,
that,
right.
right?
Well,
Like,
and let me just say, I also have symptom imperatives that I completely like, don't even think about. Like, I've never talked about it on the podcast. I had a whole as a in middle school, I had a whole wrist situation with a whole wrist, um, cyst in my wrist that I'm
oh,
like, looking back on that, I'm like, "That was TMS." That's a
yeah.
symptom imperative I don't even think about, but it was bad for, like, 2 years
Yeah,
probably.
and so interesting. I always find that so fascinating. I'll also mention that when I started puberty, I had from the get-go extremely heavy and long periods that would take me out of school sometimes for a couple of days.
Wow.
Pain to the point of vomiting, kind of.
Oh,
Just it
wow.
was really tough. A lot my GI issues would, ramp up significantly during, menstruation, and, so there was just so many layers to it, and, I think maybe if all of my fear had been funneled into one symptom, um, that maybe there would have been more interventions, like, as a young child. But once I started getting older and like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening to me?" And there's always something wrong. And, when so I've got 2 kids, I mentioned. After I had, postpartum anxiety and depression with both of them. And when my set after my second was born, I had started going to a gym down the street from my house, and I loved it. It was great time that it wasn't about being a mom or
Mm,
or a wife. It was just about
mhm.
being me.
Nice.
But I fell in love with my community, and it was amazing. But not too long after I started noticing that I had these like rough spots on my knee, and I was like, "Oh, that's
Mm.
from my burpees."
Sure. Makes sense.
Sure. And then I started noticing these rough spots. They were kind of like this purpley grayish look on my wrists and my knuckles and ankles and any joint really. And so I headed at that time I was with a naturopathic clinic, and they were like, "Oh, that's psoriasis. Like that's."
Mm,
like, that's so obvious.
right.
And, so that was kind of one of those, like, and then I said, "Well, what do I do about psoriasis?" And they were like, "Nothing. You just, like, manage it," right? Just
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
just, like, no hope. And so, yeah, so there was just so many years of this, like, GI stuff going on, and then these additional layers and ups and downs of other symptoms that, were all pointing to one thing,
Right.
but I hadn't quite put it together, and
Well, yeah, yeah, so, well, how
yeah.
did you find well, I mean, yeah, go ahead, and then let's
Well, I
get
was
into, like,
gonna
how did you
say,
find this
yeah,
work?
so the first ever real, and I hadn't put it together that this could be for, like, symptoms of your body, but, the first real experience I had with the power of the pain fear cycle
Mm.
and actually looking at it from a different perspective was, when I was pregnant with my oldest, and I took a hypnobirthing class. And
Oh, cool.
one of the first things that they teach you in hypnobirthing is the power of when we reduce fear, we reduce pain. At that
Mm,
time, my brain was like, this is just about childbirth, not really anything else. But it tied in so beautifully when I did figure it all out. So,
yeah.
uh,
Isn't that
uh,
funny how, like, you can learn something in one context, and it totally makes sense, and it's like, well, obviously, that only applies to childbirth, it wouldn't apply to my psoriasis.
or my GI issues or any sort
1000%.
of back pain. I
Right.
mean, there was some moments with the back pain where I couldn't work. I was on the couch all day. I was bedbound in a sense.
Wow, yeah.
And generally, I would find it's really interesting when I think about going to, like, PT appointments, there was a level of being taken care of that I really liked and that I really
Yeah,
appreciated. And
yeah.
so that makes a lot of sense and not definitely, again, not poo-pooing my mom in any sense, but as I was growing up, I'm the second of 5 kids. So
Wow.
when you're number 2 of 5, like,
Mm,
there's not a lot of time for you in terms of if you aren't in a place of struggling or suffering with something. And so
yeah.
I got a lot of, like, the days that I was home with my mom and she would come check on me and give me a snack, like, I felt really tended to, and,
Yeah.
I think that then that carried over when I would see
Mhm.
practitioners, like, "Oh, somebody other than me cares about me,"
Yes.
and it's so obvious. Too bad I was also either paying a copay or out of
Right.
pocket.
Right. It's
Like,
like there was a cause. But yes, I mean, the body gives you what you need, or
yeah,
it will help you get what you need if you're not getting it, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
so in late 2019, I had a situation with one of my kiddos that really rattled me and, stirred up some trauma from, like, early 20s.
Mhm.
And, um and I knew it was something that had always affected me, like, when, the memory of it was always disturbing, the consequences of it were always really uncomfortable, and so I had heard about EMDR, and I said, "Okay, I think this is gonna be really great. This is obviously, like, a very specific trauma in my history, and
Mhm.
I would love to be able to get over that." I'd
Mhm.
also recently, lost a friend to postpartum depression, and
Oh,
so,
wow.
yeah, it was hefty, and so I was just in a really hard place. I was a stay-at-home mom, so I just generally felt really two-dimensional, like, you are
Mm,
just wife and mom, and that sort of was my purpose, which
wow.
was, like, really, I wanted more, and then it was like at the end of the day, there was nothing left for me because I was just on this giving mode. So, anyway, I started seeing, an EMDR therapist. He's actually still my therapist, which is fun. Uh
That's awesome.
Uh-huh,
Cool.
yeah, yeah, and, So that was our first call was, like, right after the new year in 2020, and, not too long after we started seeing each other, I had, pretty s like, it was started out really small, my piriformis muscle, which is, this little tiny muscle in your butt cheek,
Mm, mhm,
and, it was, like, just gradually getting worse and worse, and obviously, this is my old programming of, like, "Oh, it's just a little tight. Let me use the foam roller. Let me try some yoga stretches. Let me start looking up, YouTube videos on how to stretch
mhm,
this and how to make it not so uncomfortable." And it was particularly uncomfortable if I was walking or standing. Uh, and so, yeah. And then, um, my birthday is in mid March. So we planned a trip to the Oregon coast.
mhm.
And
And,
on this
birthday
is
month, happy birthday, but
Hey!
go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be 48, it's wild. Um,
Alright.
so while we're, like, driving to the coast, the world is shutting down, right?
Mm.
We weren't even sure if we should be going because,
Oh, so
there was
this is
no.
March 2020 this has
Yes, this
happened.
is
Okay.
March 2020,
Yeah.
right? And it was the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
time that I had, like, put it out into the universe. I told he's now my ex, but I said, "I've got this, like, weird pain in my butt, and it, like, won't let up, and it's been going on for a little while," and he was like, "Oh, that's kinda weird," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's kinda weird, whatever," like, and then
Mhm.
had the birthday weekend and came back and actually my birthday, I we joked about it for years, is like COVID lockdown day, and
So, yeah, what I would say
March
New York
March
was probably,
yeah, March 16th,
March
it was
18th, 19th,
yeah,
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 yep, right in there.
yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, and so there was like, the kids did not go to school that Monday, like, everything had switched from we're just doing life to now we're doing life within the confines of our property, and
Yeah, right, yeah.
Um, and yeah, it was just, the between the trying to support the kids, and by the way, there were one was a preschooler and the other one was a kindergartner.
Oh, wow.
Trying to support kids with the online learning, one kid, trying to, help my husband at the time set up an office in the house somewhere that he could work and, just all of the complexity that went with it. The stress just compounded and I was taking less and less care of myself through this, actually I was just talking to somebody about the details of COVID. And one of the things, like just like how stressful it was to go to the grocery store and not just to be
Oh,
in the grocery
totally.
store, but I remember coming home with my like sanitary like, the Clorox
Yes.
wipes and, like, wiping everything down in the
Yes.
trunk of my car before I bring it in the house, like,
So,
just
nobody knew what to do, totally.
no!
I was waiting
Ugh,
on, like, lines outside of grocery stores. There would be, like, one set of footprints here, another set of footprints there, all 6 feet apart, and everybody masks on, gloves on, wipes
yeah,
out. I mean, it was so nuts.
yeah.
A trip to the store that would have taken, like, 20 minutes, maybe 40 minutes max would be, like, an
Mm,
hour and a half.
totally, totally, and then you get there and you're like, "Oh, there's no eggs?
Oh, right.
How am I supposed
Right.
to make all of this food that I'm supposed to be making from scratch because I'm, like, at
Right.
home all the time?"
God.
Yeah, so by mid-July, I was couch bound for most of the day. I
Wow.
It was so tough, and we had, at the time, obviously, the 2 kids, still trying to, like, get out, and I have an active dog, so, like, trying to take the dog on a walk every day, and that was so aggravating, and he's not great on a leash, so
Mm,
and then the kids would run anyway, it was just there was just so many layers to the stress, and I definitely was not doing a great I never really learned how to take care of myself, and
right.
so when it came down to even more confinement and sort of rigidity, yeah, I'm not surprised, that all that happened. I will say that, so anyway, so I started seeing somebody like a PT. It's probably like early June or so, and so, but all the while I'm getting worse. And he's like, "This is so weird," and starts throwing out these like scary names that oh, you could have stenosis or major degeneration of your spine, and
Ugh.
or something, or there's just, maybe your hips are so out of I mean, there was some like, and I remember just like, oh my gosh, like what's
Mhm.
gonna happen to me? Like, I already have all this GI stuff, and I've got psoriasis all over my body, and now he's talking about, like, you know, like, something wrong with my back, and I've
Oh,
always
no.
known it. So,
Yeah.
at one of our appointments, he says, we kinda did like an assessment or whatever, and he was like, "Oh, your psoas muscle is really tight. That's a really deep, core muscle." And, um, and he sent me home with some psoas releasing exercises, and of course, they weren't doing anything, so I
I
went
was
back.
gonna say for my hip, I've done a
Yeah,
fuck ton of psoas releasing, and it didn't
that's
work for me. But yeah, go
No,
ahead.
and the idea of forcing, that's a big thing, like, I was forced I there was so much force in feeling better, like, I just need to
Yeah,
feel better, and if I do this, then I should feel better, and so why don't I feel
yeah,
better?
right,
Little did I know I was getting in my own way, the whole time.
right.
Um,
Right,
yeah,
but, like, of course you didn't know, and I wouldn't have
no,
known,
no,
you don't know that at the time. Yeah.
no, and so much compassion for me at that time, and so I got on Google, and I just
Mhm,
typed in psoas muscle, and I'm kinda scrolling, and I was looking for something to release the psoas,
mhm,
and, I just saw the headline of some article that said something about it being sort of this, like, storage muscle of trauma, and I was like, "Oh, that's
mhm,
it. That's it. That's it. This is
mhm,
what it is. This is not physical. This is emotional. I don't
mhm,
understand how it's emotional. I don't understand how it isn't physical yet, but that was my, like, little thing on the iceberg that kinda just, like, tipped it all over,
mm,
um, and I got up off the couch, and I went, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, "You're not dying. Like,
mhm,
you're not dying. You're probably blossoming. Like, this is probably more
mm.
of, like, like, something more here is happening than what it seems." And
That's beautiful. You're not dying, you're probably blossoming? Like, wow, that's big.
Well, I will say, to pause the story, prior
Hmm,
to this moment, I had really struggled with a lot of emotional elements in my life, and had recognized through therapy that, I had a lot of shame, and a lot of embarrassment, and a lot of, just feelings of this inadequacy. And so I had danced around how to take better care of myself on this deeper level, but had never really, been able to sort of, like, crack my heart open enough to, like, let all the information fall in.
totally.
And, so at one point I'd done the mindful self-compassion 8-week program, and I'd been in therapy a lot, and so I had a lot of primers. I had a lot of seeds that I was, like, holding, I felt like, and
Mhm,
this, shift in my perspective was, like, me finally putting the seeds down and planting them and saying,
mm,
"Okay, like, I'm ready to see what life has been trying to show me for so long."
mm,
And that was kind of it. I went into a couple Facebook groups, and I was like, "Hey, I'm pretty sure that it's physical, it hurts, but I'm pretty sure that this pain is from an emotional root.
mhm,
What kind of resources? Because, like, I'm sort of sick of Dr. Google."
mhm,
And, the overwhelming majority of responses, I would say, like, half of the responses were random, like, "Oh, this podcast on posture," and, like, all of these
mhm.
sort of,
Course,
like,
right.
still very physically
Typical.
minded,
Mm,
resources. But the other half were John
mm.
Sarno's Healing Back Pain.
Yep, yep.
And And then one person said, Sarno's great. You should read him at some point. But if you want a more updated and maybe accessible version of John Sarno's work, you should check out the podcast, The Cure for Chronic Pain with Nicole Sachs.
There we go. With Nicole Sachs, and
Uh-huh.
that is where you and I met. Yep.
Yep. And I was like, okay, right? Like that's
Mhm.
kind of a bold podcast title, but I'll bite.
Yeah.
And we were set to go camping with some friends. And so I didn't listen to the podcast until the way to the coast to go camping. And so I've got my earbuds in and I'm listening. The kids are in the back. My ex is driving. And I, like a good student, because I always wanted to be a good student. I am a good student, not just be. I am a good student.
Same, same, and I always have been.
um, I listened instead of just like randomly picking an episode, I went to episode 1, and I'm so glad that I did because
That is so funny. When I was first introduced to Nicole Sachs's podcast, I think I started with the most recent episode and got like 5 minutes in. It didn't. I was like, I know there's something important here, but I don't really get what they're talking about.
yeah,
Let me start at episode 1, and I am very glad that I did that. And I actually, now that I have my own podcast, I literally have on episode 1, I have a little star emoji that says "Start here." Because I know that not everybody's going to do that, but some people will need that, and I
yeah,
needed that, and it sounds like you needed that too. But yeah,
I
yeah, go ahead.
absolutely did. And I know I've told Nicole this. The words, like the permission and hearing her be so vulnerable about
Mm,
talking about what the sort of what penned journals speak for the first time, like, I hate being a
mhm.
mother.
Yeah,
I had never felt so seen by somebody that I had absolutely no idea who she was.
yeah,
And at that moment, it was like this profound trust, like that. And I think this is what vulnerability does. It helps us trust other people and ourselves, right?
yeah.
And that was it. And I was like, okay, fine. And I didn't understand the brain science. I was so in my symptoms and I was in so much pain. And with all of the at that time, I was doing the FODMAP protocol and there was so
Of
many,
course,
right? I
naturally,
kind
because of course you were.
Totally. Well, and at that point, I got so fed up with supplements and spending money on that stuff, but there was always this
Yeah.
part of me that was like, "Oh, you've abandoned, like, a really good protocol," and anyway,
Right,
so,
right, right, if you only spent 20,000 on the supplements, then you'd
ugh,
be better.
so much money on
I know.
supplements.
It's nuts, I know.
I should have started an account of, like, what was I spending on average a week on my
Uh,
healthcare, and then,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know what kind of vacation I could take today, but it would probably be pretty amazing.
Yeah, it'd be a good one. Same, same. I'll meet you there.
Well, yeah, let's go somewhere.
Yeah.
Itching to go
Too
back
bad
to
we already
Europe.
spent all the money on supplements.
Oh, yes. Um, so one of the things that she said was, "If you just trust me and you wanna give this a shot, just start journaling. Just let it all out. Like, say what you need to say." And I was like, "Oh, I just have to write?" Like,
Mhm,
that's so simple? Like, it can't be that
mhm,
simple. Is it really that simple?
mhm.
And so, and then it was interesting because now I recognize that it was all resistance. It took me about a week to really be able to bring up the courage because I knew what I wanted to write about. And there was this part of me that was like, but if you write about that, then you're a total jerk because you're going to, talk shit about people. Oh, can I say that?
Yeah.
Can I swear?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I
for
thought I
sure.
did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I
Yeah.
heard you swear.
All good,
Yeah,
all good.
yeah, yeah, this idea that if I'm talking shit about people, then that means I'm a bad person. And I already had enough to feel like I was a bad person, so, anyway, so I
Yeah.
recognize that as resistance, and then now I recognize it as resistance. I had a procedure in, it was, the 20th of July. I was mentioning that I had these really terrible, menstrual cycles, and by that point, I was definitely in perimenopause, and my periods had gotten so heavy, I mean, like, I could barely leave the house for over a
Oh,
week
wow. Wow,
because
wow,
I had like, there was the chance that I could, like, bleed all over the place,
wow.
and just, like, the fatigue that comes with that much, blood loss. I was definitely anemic. I had iron infusions and, just really, struggled with maintaining, a sense of, like, energized, which makes sense, like, you need iron to
Yeah.
feel
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
I do think that I have always been a heavy bleeder, but then I'm like, was it because I'd always had a dysregulated nervous system and stuck
Yeah, I
brain kind of
wonder.
thing?
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard, especially with the crossover between hormones and the brain, and so I don't wanna
Yeah.
get into it, but what was really interesting is that I had a uterine ablation, which is basically just this cauterization of your uterus so that you don't bleed, and, restored my energy, but at the same time, I had just started journaling, so it's so hard to know, like,
Mhm,
chicken egg. It doesn't really matter
mhm.
today, I just know that
Yeah,
I right?
yeah.
I started seeing, a relief, and I was holding so much less tension in my body, and I was writing daily, and I was still having this symptom. I still had the pain in my butt every once in a while. Other things were showing up, but I was trusting the process, and it was really the first time in my life where I was understanding through consistency. I think that's a really critical thing that people don't actually wanna hear, that you do have
Yeah.
to be consistent.
Yes.
You do. You can't
You
just,
do,
like
you do, you do.
you can't pop in
And
once a week and be like, "Oh,
no.
it's better."
Right, it's not gonna happen. Yeah, and I mean, now that I'm a practitioner and, yeah, obviously you as well doing this stuff, I don't know if you've had this experience, just as a brief aside. I have seen briefly or had initial consultations with clients who really are expecting me to fix them,
Yes.
and it just doesn't work that way, you know? And even this, like, "Oh, this tool, if I just do it here and there, it'll fix me." No, I mean, profoundly helpful, but it's like
Uh,
just doing it here and there, that's not gonna fix you, you know?
it's not gonna shift anything, and yeah, so that was probably the first time in my life where I was consistent about my mindset around my body, doing an emotional practice such as journal speak. Um, I started somatic tracking at some point, a few months in. I remember I was actually, so I live in Oregon, and we recently are able to pump our own gas if we want, but we're a state that for years you were not allowed to pump your like attendants would like run out of the convenience store, be like, "You can't pump your own gas, stop," you know?
New Jersey is like that too, which is so weird.
Yes. Um, and so I remember I was at the gas station and I was listening to one of Alan Gordon's podcasts about on how to somatic track. And it was the first time that I somatic tracked at the gas station. I just like so funny. Anyway, it's so random.
I love that. Like, my initial experience doing this was at a gas station, because of course.
'Cause right? But I think
That's how I like
that
it.
was it. It was like a low stakes place. I was just listening to a podcast. I wasn't
Mm,
my brain was like not there wasn't any resistance or fear about what I was doing because 'cause I'm just at the gas station waiting in line to get my gas pumped. And, my symptoms in them, like, in my piriformis muscle, because that was where I was still having quite a bit of pain, it, like, I almost felt it unravel in a sense, and it was like this, like, the rubber band balls,
mhm,
right? And
mhm.
when they kinda start falling apart and they sort of do
Right.
this, like, that's what it was, and then
Wow.
and on part of it, Alan was like, "And see if you can follow it," and I felt like a little, like, detective following clues, and
Mhm,
it was like I was inside my body chasing after the pain in a sense, like,
mhm,
I know you're not I don't need to fear you. In fact, I
mhm,
fear you so little that I'm gonna
mhm,
turning the tables here. I am chasing you in a
mhm.
way of like, "Hey, where are you going?" Not like creepy. But
No, right. But no, that's huge to think that it's something that you're like, oh, you know, who wouldn't wanna, like, stay away from it, get it out of my life, and
yeah,
to think, like, now you're like, "Actually, I want to know I wanna feel you. I wanna know what
yes,
you are. I wanna know what you're saying to me. I
yeah.
want it."
Yeah,
Wow.
the
Wow.
curiosity and the acceptance that, like, that
Mhm.
moment distilled down was really powerful. Um, and so, yeah, and that was kind of my journey of, like the journaling, and then it was right after the new year, so I had maybe been journaling like 4 to 6 months-ish, when I decided to meet food where it was at and sort of battle
Mhm.
this idea that everything that I was eating was making me ill. And I started out with some really low stakes items like, oh, I know that Parmesan cheese has, the front of my brain felt safe. Like, okay, this is a safe first step. Um,
Mhm.
Same with like sourdough bread instead of going for the whole wheat, right? Like my brain was
Mhm.
still a little bit like, I'm still a little scared
Mhm.
to try this out. So how can I dip my toes in instead of just like, I'm gonna eat a tub of ice cream and hope I'm okay. Like not going for the biggest thing. So sort of
Yeah,
setting
yeah.
myself up in this graded exposure kind of way. Um,
Mhm.
and then it didn't take long. It didn't take long.
Cool.
Within a couple of months, I was enjoying food again for the first time. Like, it was
Wow.
really, really significant change.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Wow.
thinking about some of those first meals with, like,
Yeah.
no modifications, being able to go
Ugh,
to a restaurant and just like, "I want this thing on the menu," and doesn't matter what
yeah.
what's in there.
Right, right, like, I just want it because I wanna eat it, and how
Yes.
easy I mean, that to me, at restaurants, I look back on the days like, "Oh, and what's in this, and can I get this without the
Oh,
that?" And like, "Oh,
man.
would you ask the" like, I hate being that person, and it's such to me, it's honestly one of the best parts is, like, not being that person
Totally.
anymore.
Sean, one time, I emailed, a local company that makes, like, sauces, and one
Mhm.
of their ingredients was, like, herbs or spices, and I was so scared that they were using onion powder and garlic powder. I emailed
Oh,
the
right.
company and I was like, "Hi, I have a lot of food sensitivities, and I need you to
When
tell
you
me."
say herbs.
Yeah, when you say herbs and spices, can you give me that list? Surprisingly, they never emailed me back. But, like, oh, when I
Yeah,
think back to that girl, like, oh, I think one of the most profound things for me in this journey has been, 1, that it's okay to update your beliefs when you learn something new. Like, it is
yeah,
okay to say, "Oh, it wasn't the food. Oh, it wasn't the way that the seat in my car was positioned or how I was sitting," right? Like, as Alan Gordon says,
right.
"Wasn't the chair," right? And
Yep, yeah, and let me ask, I mean, it
mhm.
sounds like something you might also be saying is like, it's okay that you were wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's deep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's deep, yeah,
is, and
yeah,
when I see people struggling with this, and you can kinda see it, there's this part of him that's like, "Oh, I have to go back and admit that I was wrong?" Like, that is so, so hard, and so just a lot of compassion if you are a listener in that spot where, it feels really vulnerable to admit that. Know that you're not alone because I think it's part of the process for a lot of us, and,
yeah,
admitting that we weren't right about what was not just the cause of, but what the solutions that we thought were, really helpful aren't. I was,
yeah,
the obnoxious person on these food protocols, and sure that I knew that everybody else needed to be dairy and gluten free also. Um,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and, um and that we really the other thing that really has been a profound shift for me, because I know that there were parts of, my life where I didn't think that I was doing the best that I could. I didn't think others were doing the best that they could, um, but I was. I really,
Mm,
really was, and I think that we all are, no matter where we are in our life's journey. If we're, if our behaviors and our actions are highly impactful to our relationships and our communities, to, we're the shining star of something, everything in between. We really are only able to show up with the information that we have, the brain capacity for it.
mhm,
And the emotional regulation around it too. It takes a lot um, to admit some of the places, and this is not to be a criticism on myself, but I in a sense had to hold my own face, right? Like thinking about how
mhm.
you might hold the face of like a kid when you're talking to them, like in past versions of myself, and just say, I see you and I love you and you're not bad and you're not wrong. And it's okay to exhale. It's
Yeah, yeah,
okay to just accept how things are and
yeah,
how much of my tension came from this place of I need to figure everything out, and it all has to be, like, organized and taken care of and meticulously, monitored, and that's such a tough paradox about this work. So much of what helps us achieve in life and helps us become these, like, incredible humans also ends up being what contributes to our chronic symptoms,
yeah,
and it's yeah, and I think that all of these things are things that I see people, having to face, and
yeah.
it can be really uncomfortable. So just
Yes.
wherever you are in your journey, if you are in discomfort, just know that there is a whole community of people that completely and truly understand and have compassion for
Yeah.
where you are.
Ugh, thank you for saying that. That is so beautiful, and I'm sure that's resonating with a lot of people who are listening.
I hope so.
Let me ask you this,
Yeah.
let me ask you how are things now in terms of, like, symptoms, like, your body, how are
Oh,
you now?
I get little things here and there. Um, Nothing is chronic on this, like, to where it was before. Interesting. Um, if clients mention these two symptoms, they almost always start right away. Eye floaters or tinnitus is like, there goes. My tinnitus just
Yes.
went. If they even
Wait, let me say, actually, while you were talking, now what was it? I was even gonna stop and say, like, like, my hip, which has been feeling totally fine all day,
Mhm.
um, and feels fine right now. What was the thing that you said something that I was like, "Oh my god," literally hearing you say that, I can feel the tension coming on in my hip. Like,
Yeah.
it is so, quote, unquote, "contagious" in a psychological
Totally.
way. It is so contagious.
Um, yeah, and my giggling about it is not to disparage your feelings at
No,
all, right?
totally.
But,
It is funny.
yeah, it is. It's so funny, and I think that that is part like, I am a naturally, I have a tendency to lean towards humor as,
Mm,
an antidote for almost everything, including humor,
mm,
and
mhm,
so, yeah, I think that that was a lot of it is that I had always put this personification of lightheartedness, but in the background, I was this rigid rock, and
yeah,
now I find that that's more of a balance, like, the rigidness in me is, like, when I deliver a boundary or, I decide that something doesn't work for me anymore. But these days, if I get something, and really it's not even IBS related, like more so like headaches every once in a while or some insomnia here and there. Um, but I don't even I don't look at them as these things to target anymore. It's like,
mhm,
okay, let me look at my calendar. Have I been overworking myself? When was the last
mm,
time I played? When was the last time I got to hang out with my friends or my kids and not have it be about basketball practice or running to this event, right? Like, when was the last
yeah,
time we just went and played in the woods or
mhm,
took time to ourselves? When was the last time I turned off my phone for an extended
yeah,
period of, of time? So,
totally.
they become my, when I have a symptom show up, it's almost always very short, and it invites me to ask the deeper question of, what do I need in this moment? What do I really need?
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
and then that self-discovery, which I love this idea of, like, self-compassion can be anything from, like, I'm literally gonna put my hand on my heart and tell myself, "I love you. We're working on this. I'm always in practice of forgiving myself," right? Like, all of those beautiful things. And self-compassion is also, like, saying no, or,
Mhm,
right, typing that tough
mhm,
email.
mhm.
That it is such a broad spectrum of things that you can do, and I think that's why it's hard to teach, not to, yeah, to teach self-compassion in a way that I think, those who are kind of newer to this work want that message to be received, like,
It's very
"Tell me
hard.
what
I think
to
it's very hard.
do."
Exactly. Right, which is yeah, it's very hard because when I started this, I lacked self-compassion so
Mhm,
deeply
mhm.
that I didn't even know, like, self-compassion. I was like, I don't even know who the self is that I'm supposed to be nice to, like, I lack self-compassion so deeply, and many do. So that's why this work is so important, and that's why it's so hard to, get into that.
Yeah.
Let me just say, in hearing how you're doing,
Mhm.
y you're doing great,
Yeah.
right? Like, to hear this, that you're like, there was a time where you were couch bound,
Mhm.
bed bound, barely getting out of the house, and now you're like, "Oh, I feel feelings in my body sometimes, and then I take care of myself and they go away."
Yeah.
There you go. And how many people listening to this podcast are like, that's the end goal. Like, that's the destination. That's where we are all, going to meet. Because there is no such no pain at all, everything's good. Like, we feel things in our bodies, that's life. We don't have to have chronic pain,
We
and
don't.
there you are.
We don't. And I think that's such a, like, thinking about, like, the end goal of all of it. Like, I definitely had this idea of, "Oh, once my symptoms are all gone, then I'll be this other person that I don't quite know yet." And
Good.
I think one of the things that has been so wonderful about this work and this, like, self-discovery and like, trust honestly for the first time in myself, um, was this idea of, like, if I'm not feeling anything, like, if I'm not feeling pain every once in a while, or having a moment where I'm feeling things in my body, or I don't want to feel things in my body and I don't ever wanna have pain, like, I know this, that's a dead person goal to, like,
Yes.
right? Like, to, like, never
No,
feel
yes.
again.
Uh-huh.
And so when I think about that, I'm like, "Oh, I want human goals. I
Yeah.
wanna just keep practicing what it means to be really good to myself, and
Mhm.
practicing being open-minded and curious and accepting, and all of it is a practice. There's absolutely no perfection of any of that in my life, and it feels
Yeah.
really good to not have the weight of perfection and this inner critic. I was just at a, training, actually. I spent a week in Canada during, the first
Cool.
part. Yeah, it was beautiful, the first part of the mindful self-compassion teacher training,
Oh, wow. Very cool.
and why was I telling this story? Boom. Hmm.
Not being perfect was the theme.
Yeah, there was something else, though.
The pressure to not
We'll
be
just
perfect.
log this under imperfection moment, and I am totally okay with it.
Love it, love
And if
it.
I
Well, okay,
think about it, then or just
you let me know.
I was about to tell the secret of life, and so now I'm just gonna keep
And
all of the listeners hanging.
there we go. Well, okay, I'm
Kidding.
sure
All
we
right.
could literally talk
I
about this
know.
for so much
We
longer.
have.
And literally, it's funny to think of I've got, the whole list of, like, little questions to ask
Oh,
Monica. I asked one, which was introduce yourself, or no, I guess I asked two. Introduce yourself and tell us your story. So
yeah.
we're gonna skip all the way down to the last question.
Okay.
It's so fun to have this conversation with you because, like, with zero prompting, we get all this wisdom, all this experience, all of these. One of the things I like to ask people is, advice, and in your story, you've given so much advice, things you've gone through that people and things you've used that people can certainly take
Yeah.
with them and use for themselves. So thank you so much for all that. Where can people find you if they would like to work with you? I know you are obviously a coach in
Yep,
this work.
I am.
Where can people find you?
Well, you can go straight to my website. I've made it very easy. MonicaLiaSetti.com. MonicaLiaSetti.
And that'll be in the show notes, folks. So
And
just scroll down.
that's it. I'm also on Instagram, mindbody.monica.lia. My Facebook's a little locked down, but really the best way to get in touch with me is via email or Instagram Messenger. I answer those as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
any final words of hope or final words of advice
Mm.
to say to the people listening before we're done?
I think the most important thing that when I kind of think about this whole work is that, that there's no perfection. Nothing, even when we're out of chronic symptoms, life still is there.
Mhm.
And the relationship that we have with ourselves is always evolving. And and even in our blunders and our mistakes, there's really wonderful moments of learning that can happen. Um, and to just give yourself so much grace. It is 2026 on planet Earth, and it is bananas.
We all need a lot of grace.
So,
Yeah.
hold your hand to your
Period.
heart. Know that there are other people in this world who are, in a similar position as you, and that there are other people in this world who have, found tremendous relief and have shifted their lives tremendously by being open to, the idea that it isn't that there's something physically wrong with you. Even if there is, I've worked with people who have real legitimate diagnoses that are outside of TMS,
Mhm,
and as somebody with psoriasis, my psoriasis is in remission, um,
mhm.
that there can still be profound shift in how you feel about your life and yourself, and so this work isn't in my eyes, it isn't just about pain.
Yep.
No.
Yes. Thank you so much for
Thanks for
coming on to
thanks for
talk to us.
having me.
This has
It's
been
so
so
good to
fun.
see you.
You too.
I
It was
miss
so fun.
you.
Like, I know, same. I miss you too. When are we gonna hang again?
I don't
I
know. I'll
guess
be at the
you'll be
conference,
in
I think.
Dallas.
Yeah, that's the
Okay. Well,
plan.
I'll definitely see you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Come to the West Coast.
I know. I haven't been to the West Coast in 2 years, maybe longer. It's been a long time.
Have you
But
eaten your way through Portland before?
I have not. There's
Oh,
an idea. There's an idea.
how
And maybe
brilliant. How brilliant would it be to record a little, like, montage of us eating whatever we want in Portland?
okay, Monica, that's actually really a good idea. Wait, let me say this one
Yeah.
last thing before we're
Yeah.
done. Were you there? Oh, you weren't there.
Where?
It was the night of, this is about exactly a year ago. It was Nicole Sachs's, book launch, which she did at the 92nd Street Y in Manhattan,
Yeah.
and she had, it was this great event, blah, blah, very cool, and beforehand, Anna Holtzman actually got a group of people together to, like, go out to
Oh,
dinner,
I saw your
and,
photos. Yeah, I saw photos of you guys.
it was
It's
super
like
fun. Yeah, and,
Dr. Strax and
yes, I
yes.
sat next to Dr. John Strax. I was like, "Oh my god, I got sat next to a celebrity in this world." Like, it was a very good vibe, and, literally, the first thing that happened was the server comes up to our table, which is a there were a bunch of us. It was like multiple tables combined into one table, like, long table, and she just comes up and is like, "Okay, hi, my name is whatever. I'm gonna be taking care of you tonight. Any food allergies or restrictions I should be aware of?" And everyone just busts out laughing. It was awesome.
Ah, well, it's so true. It feels empowering to be able to point to a menu and say, "I'm just gonna have that. Oh, wait, it doesn't like, I really don't like mustard. Guess what? I'm not gonna eat mustard because I don't like it," versus I have this,
Right.
like, tremendous fear about it. So but that's hilarious, and it is, it's super empowering. It's super
Yeah,
empowering to,
yeah.
be able to step into any restaurant and just, "Hey, what's on the menu? What's the chef's
Alright.
special?"
Someday we're gonna do a little someday, I'm, like, noted in my head, someday we'll do
Yeah.
something along those lines for everybody's fun and for our
Right.
fun, and, so
Oh,
thank you so much for being
I
here,
adore you.
and
Thanks for having me on.
back at you, I adore
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and for everybody listening, this has been Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain, and I will talk to you next week. And I just wanna say, before we're done today that, after we ended the recorded portion of the call, Monica and I chatted for a little bit because we're friends, and in the middle of the conversation, she's like, "Oh, this is it. This is the thing I forgot." It's about sitting with the inner critic and getting to know the inner critic and building a relationship with the inner critic and giving love to the inner critic. So for those who are like, what was she gonna say? That was it. Okay, I will plan to see you next week. If you're looking for a therapist, you found one. And you can decide, does my vibe resonate with you? Therapy is an opportunity. Therapy is an opportunity to tune into you, to learn to feel more comfortable being yourself, to feel more comfortable with your emotions, and to feel more comfortable existing in the world in your body. Do you have difficulties in your life? Maybe it's chronic pain, maybe it's something else. Maybe you want to become a person who likes yourself. Do you want a therapist to help you? And would you like me to get to know you and to help you? That is actually an option. You can find me at SeanHershey.com or MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com. Both go to the same place, and if you're looking for me, I'd welcome a message from you. SeanHershey.com, MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com, and you can request a free consultation.